My mother-in-law banned me from my own anniversary party. I sat in my car, the engine running, the heat blasting against my face, but I still felt cold. The invitation, the one with gold trim and elegant cursive, sat on the passenger seat, taunting me. My name wasn't on it, at least not as a guest, not as the husband being celebrated. Join us for a night of love and celebration as we honor 5 years of marriage between Celeste and Oliver Radcliffe. My stomach twisted every time I read it, but I couldn't seem to look away. 5 years. 5 years of building a life together. And now, the celebration of that life was being held without me, organized entirely by my mother-in-law, Priscilla Ashford. The venue was grand. One of those old-money establishments in the heart of Boston. A place with chandeliers dripping in crystal and valet parking only. Priscilla had always loathed the fact that Celeste married me. She never said it outright, but it was in the way she pursed her lips whenever I spoke, the way she called me Mr. Radcliffe instead of Oliver, the way she still, after all these years, insisted that Celeste had thrown her life away for me, and now she had found the perfect way to humiliate me. The planning had gone on for months. Celeste had mentioned a party, but she had been vague, distracted, brushing it off as something her mother wanted. "I'll handle it," she had said. "Don't worry about it." And I, like a fool, believed her. I had expected to be involved. I had expected to walk into that venue with my wife, to toast to our marriage, to dance with her in front of friends and family. Instead, I found out from a distant cousin that I wasn't even invited. Priscilla had made sure of it. I should have seen it coming. The warning signs were there. The tension that had been brewing since day one, the small ways she had tried to control Celeste, the manipulation disguised as concern. She had always viewed me as an obstacle, a mistake Celeste had been too naive to see. And now, she had succeeded in erasing me from my own anniversary. The humiliation burned deep. People would talk. They would whisper about how Celeste had arrived alone, how her mother had thrown a lavish celebration as if she were the one in the marriage. They would pity me, and that was worse than anger, worse than hate. I picked up my phone, my fingers hovering over Celeste's number. I had called her earlier, left messages she hadn't answered. Had she known? Had she allowed this? Or had she been manipulated, pushed into a corner by her mother's iron grip? A knock on my window startled me. It was Julian, my best friend, the only one who had the guts to tell me what was happening before I found out through social media posts and secondhand gossip. He looked at me with sympathy, which only made my anger worse. "You can't just sit here, Oliver," he had said earlier when he called me. "You have to do something." But what was there to do? Barging in would only make me look like a madman, and Priscilla would use it as proof that I was unworthy of her daughter. Staying away felt like surrender. There was no winning against a woman like her. I gripped the steering wheel, my knuckles turning white. Memories flashed in my mind. The wedding Priscilla had tried to stop. The way she had whispered to Celeste on the morning of our ceremony, telling her there was still time to back out. The way she had made a scene at the reception, loudly declaring to anyone who would listen that Celeste had settled for less. And now, she was celebrating my marriage as if I had never existed. I turned off the engine, staring out at the glowing lights of the venue in the distance. The sound of laughter and clinking glasses carried through the crisp night air. My name was being spoken in that room, I was sure of it. But not in celebration, not in love. I had been erased. And the worst part? I wasn't sure if Celeste had fought to stop it. I sat there for what felt like hours, gripping the steering wheel so tightly that my hands ached. The longer I sat, the more the anger boiled inside me, simmering just beneath my skin like an open wound. Every laugh that echoed from the grand ballroom was a slap to my face, a reminder that I had been cast aside, uninvited to my own anniversary celebration. I wasn't just an afterthought, I was a ghost. The memories of the past few years played in my head like an unforgiving reel of film, flickering between love and betrayal. I remembered the first time I met Priscilla Ashford, the way her gaze traveled over me, dissecting me with the kind of precision only the truly ruthless possessed. I was never what she wanted for Celeste. She had envisioned a different kind of husband for her daughter, someone with old money, someone who came from a name that carried weight in high society. Not me. Not Oliver Radcliffe, a man who had built his success with his own 2 hands, who had grown up in a modest household where love was the currency, not trust funds and stock portfolios. Priscilla had spent the last 5 years trying to push me out of Celeste's life. The little remarks, the orchestrated family events I was accidentally left out of, the way she undermined my decisions in front of my wife. She played the long game, and I had been blind enough to think that love would be enough to withstand her storm. But tonight I saw it for what it was. This was her victory lap. This party wasn't just a celebration, it was a declaration. She had won. I thought about Celeste, my wife, the woman I had vowed to spend my life with, to protect, to cherish. Where was she in all of this? How could she stand there, sipping champagne, smiling for photographs, knowing that I was sitting outside in my car, uninvited? Had she even tried to fight for me? Had she argued with her mother, told her that this was wrong, that I belonged there just as much as she did? Or had she given in, just like she always had, letting her mother's will bend her until there was nothing left but obedience? The thought made my stomach turn. Celeste had always been gentle, kind, the kind of person who avoided confrontation at all costs. It was part of what had drawn me to her, that soft warmth in a world that was often so cruel. But that softness had a cost. And tonight I was paying it. The weight of it all pressed down on me, suffocating. My marriage, my dignity, my very place in my own life. It was all slipping away, slipping into the hands of a woman who had never wanted me there to begin with. I wanted to march into that ballroom, to tear down the facade, to make them all see what a farce this night truly was. But I knew how that would end. Priscilla would tilt her head, feigning pity, whispering to Celeste how unhinged I was, how I had embarrassed myself. I could almost hear her voice, condescending, triumphant. This is exactly why I didn't want him here. I swallowed the rage, forcing myself to breathe. This wasn't just about one night. It was about something bigger. It was about the life I had been building, the life that was slowly being chipped away one manipulation at a time. I couldn't let this continue. I couldn't keep playing the role of the fool, the man left standing outside while his own marriage was rewritten without him. I needed answers. I needed to know where Celeste truly stood in all of this. Was she my partner, my wife, the woman who had promised to stand by me? Or was she Priscilla's daughter first, her mother's puppet, someone who would always choose obedience over love? The truth terrified me, but I couldn't ignore it any longer. With a deep breath, I turned the ignition, the roar of the engine drowning out the sounds of celebration. I wasn't going to sit in the shadows any longer. It was time to face the truth, no matter how much it hurt. I didn't remember the drive home. My hands were on the wheel, my foot on the pedal, but my mind was somewhere else, replaying every moment of my marriage, searching for the precise second when Celeste stopped being mine and started being her mother's again. Had it been gradual? Had I ignored the signs? Or had it been swift, a clean break, and I had simply refused to see it? My apartment felt hollow when I stepped inside. It was never supposed to be just mine. Celeste and I had built this space together, filled it with our laughter, our fights, our lazy Sunday mornings. Now it was just walls and silence. I dropped my keys on the counter, running a hand through my hair, the weight of exhaustion pressing down on me. I had no answers, only questions, and they clawed at me, demanding resolution. And then, my phone vibrated. For a split second, I thought about ignoring it. But something in me said to look, to face whatever came next. And when I saw Celeste's name, my breath caught in my throat. I hesitated before answering. Her voice was shaky, almost hesitant, like she wasn't sure she had the right to call me after what had happened. But she spoke, and as she did, I heard something in her voice that I hadn't expected. Remorse. She knew. She had known all along, and she had let it happen. I listened, gripping the phone so tightly my knuckles turned white. She told me what I already suspected, that her mother had orchestrated everything, that the party had never been about us. It had been about control, about erasing me, about making a statement that Priscilla Ashford still ruled over her daughter's life. But Celeste also told me something I didn't expect. She was done. She was done letting her mother dictate her life. Done allowing Priscilla to manipulate her into believing she had to choose between love and family. She realized too late what she had allowed to happen, and she wanted to fix it. The words hit me like a tide crashing over the shore, washing away the bitterness I had been drowning in all night. Could I forgive her? Did I even want to? I had spent years fighting for a place in my own marriage, and tonight had been the ultimate betrayal. But listening to her now, I heard something real in her voice. Genuine regret, fear, and love. Love. Despite everything, despite the wounds still raw inside me, I loved her, and that wasn't something I could shut off. So I gave her one chance to prove that she meant what she said, that she was willing to fight for us as much as I had been. One chance to walk away from the grip her mother had on her and choose me, and she did. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of a key turning in the lock. For a brief moment, I thought I had imagined it, that my exhaustion had twisted reality into something I wanted to see. But then, the door creaked open, and there she was, Celeste, standing in the doorway, suitcase in hand, eyes filled with unshed tears. She had walked away from the mansion, from the life her mother had tried to force her into, and she had come home, to me. The next few weeks weren't easy. Trust had been fractured, wounds still fresh. But we rebuilt, brick by brick, conversation by conversation. And as time passed, I saw it. Celeste was changing, growing into the woman she had always wanted to be, free from her mother's shadow. And as for Priscilla Ashford, she tried, of course. She called. She pleaded. She demanded. But Celeste held her ground. She had made her choice, and for the first time, Priscilla's control slipped through her fingers. 1 year later, on the anniversary of the night I had been banned from my own celebration, Celeste and I held our own private anniversary dinner. Just the two of us. No grand ballroom, no curated guest list, no whispered manipulations. Just love. Real, unfiltered, imperfect love. And for the first time in a long time, I knew this was what marriage was supposed to be.